And welcome back, Fruitport High School meteorology students. Today's lesson, video lecture, will focus on the difference between climate and weather. So by the time you're done with this unit, you should know the basic differences between climate and weather, and also how to decide an area of the United States based on temperature and precipitation. We'll also talk about record highs and record lows for different parts of the U.S. and actually have you make some guesses as to what you think all-time record highs and record lows are for different parts of the country. Okay, so when we talk about climate and weather, time is the basic difference between those two. Weather occurs daily, weather occurs hourly, weather changes by the minute. All of that combined decides or determines the climate. Now, the average weather, or what happens on a daily basis, becomes a climatic norm weather for that day. And I'll show you some charts and graphs where you can look at averages based on a 30-year period. So what the average high is this time of year, what the average low is this time of year, when our average first freeze is in fall, and when our average last freeze is in May. All of those are based on things that have happened throughout a 30-year period. That doesn't mean it's going to be that way on a day-to-day basis. So again, time's the basic difference between climate and weather. The daily weather, the hourly precipitation, the daily precipitation, that determines our climate. Now, climatic norm is averaged over a 30-year period or 3 consecutive decades. Right now, when we look at averages, we look at the averages based on 3 decades spanning from 1981 to 2010. Next year, in 2021, those averages will be based on the weather from 1991 to 2020. So again, the averages may change if the 30-year normal changes, and next year we'll actually be able to look at that, how it differs, but that's what our averages are based on. Right now, our averages are based on 3 decades from 1981 to 2010. When we talk about climatic normals, and we've looked at 500 millibar charts in this class. When we look at departure from normal, we can make predictions based on winters being colder than normal, or this month will be wetter than normal based on model predictions. And that's looking at, again, when we talk about normal, that's the 30-year normal from what has happened over the last 3 decades. We do still have large swings in day-to-day, month-to-month, and even year-to-year weather. That doesn't mean that it's implying a large, rapid change in climate. Weather over time will still become part of the 30-year normal. Okay, one thing I like to talk about when we talk about climate versus weather is historical weather that's occurred here in Michigan. One of those great historical weather things that I remember is the Great Michigan Floods of 1986. That exceeded by a large amount our normal precipitation for the month of September. So here's a couple of pictures from those flood events back in 1986. The first picture over here to the left is actually at Lowell High School. That's one of the football coaches standing on the football field in Lowell High School. And I believe this picture over here is from Muskegon, Michigan. So boating down the road in Muskegon. And actually, and I'll show you this in class also, but if you search the Great Michigan Floods of 1986, the National Weather Service actually has a great article that talks about all of the flooding throughout the state. And you can see the large amounts of precipitation, not just for those 3 days, but also for the entire month of September. And then an aerial map, the map of the state that shows where the heaviest rains were. Now remember too, in the state of Michigan here, even if we don't get a large amount of rain in our area, we're still connected to other areas by the rivers. So those rivers rise and flow into Lake Michigan going through Muskegon County. And then another thing to look up, if you look up the pictures from the Great Michigan Floods of 1986, you can really see the extent of the rainfall and the extent of the damage. Try to find some from this area. Right here is Croton Dam on the Muskegon River. So you can see the flood waters here and how much water is going through that dam. I'm not sure if you guys have ever been up there on a fall trip, but this would be at flood stage or above flood stage, all that water going through. It's a few more of people boating. Here's in Muskegon, the Muskegon River. That's that picture I showed you on that other page. And then again, some of the streets that are flooded around West Michigan, some of the damage that was done around West Michigan. This is Maple Island up near the Newaygo County border, being rushed out probably from the Muskegon River there. So look that up if you have some time. Okay, so here's what we look at here's a site that I show you in class that actually shows the climate normal and the climate records for every day of the year. So if you click on that and go to Muskegon and daily climate report, we'll just do the most recent. And this shows you, this is for October 13th. So for Tuesday, October 13th. And again, it tells you the climate period is from 81 to 2010, that 30-year period. The climate record is from 1896 up until the present date. So this site right here, it's pretty nice. It gives you the observed value at the airport, the Muskegon County Airport. Yesterday's high temperature was 67 degrees. The record is 76 now for this day, and that was set back in 1995. And then the normal for this time of year is 60 degrees. So we're approaching upper 50s for normals now as we head towards November. The minimum yesterday was 45, and normal is 43. Average between the two, this is the average between the high and the low, 56 and 52. The record low for this date was 25, set in 1993. You can see the precipitation. The record precipitation for this date was almost 2 inches back in 2001. And normal value is about 1/10 of an inch. So this is kind of nice because it shows you how much we've had the month to date, what our normal is, and how much more, how much less we are from normal for this time in the month of October. Once we get into winter, this site right here can give you snowfall amounts, record snowfalls, average snowfalls, all that good stuff. And then I like this because it also gives you the, when you go to the month, I'll show you the month, but it gives you the average first freeze and the average last freeze. But here's again normals for this day. Maximum temperature for the normal high temperature for October 13th is 60 degrees. The record is 78. The normal low is 43. The record is 28. So check this site out. I'll show you this in class also when you get back into the class. If you look at the actual monthly weather summary, and we'll go to September. So here's the summary for the month of September, the month that recently ended. The record high for all of September is 98, set back in 1913 and 1899. The record low for September is 27, set back in 1991. And then the highest temperature we reached last September, this past month, was 85, set on September 3rd, and the lowest was 36, set on September 19th. Here's the rainfall. We talked about the floods of 1986. The record rain for the month was actually set that year. Muskegon area had 11.85 inches that year. Normal is 4.28. So we were over 7 inches more than normal for that year in 1986 with those record floods. It gives you a summary of all the precipitation for the month. and then the wind speed and any type of weather, thunderstorms, rain, fog, snow, blowing snow, and all that good stuff. And then here is actually, again, it shows you the normal period that climate's recorded for those 30 years, those 3 decades, and then the records from 1892 to 2020. Okay, so the second part of this, again, the first part is climate versus weather. Remember, weather it will make up the overall climate, and it's based on that 30-year average. So climate can be broken down into different zones, and those climate zones, are based on temperature and precipitation. So you'll need to know these different climate zones, and you should also know different parts of the country based on average temperature and average precipitation in a given time. So in a given month or a given season, if I mentioned different temperatures and precipitation, you should be able to choose a part of the country, most likely where that's going to occur. So the different climate zones, again, based on precipitation and temperature. First one is the tropical climate. Those are moist climates, and it gives you the latitude which they extend. They have average temperatures greater than 64 degrees Fahrenheit and annual precipitation greater than 49 inches. Our precipitation here in West Michigan per year is a little more than 40 inches on average. Dry climates is the second one. Low precipitation, where the evaporation and transpiration exceed precipitation. Those are in 20 to 35 degrees north and south of the equator, large continent regions, and surrounded by mountains. Third one is the moist subtropical mid-latitude climate. Generally, this climate has warm and humid summers with mild winters. During the winter, the main weather feature is the mid-latitude cyclone. Convective thunderstorms dominate the summer months. So there's a diagram or a picture of those 3 different climates. And then the next 3 climates is the moist continental mid-latitude climate, the polar climates that have year-round cold temperatures, which with the warmest month less than 50 degrees Fahrenheit. These are found on the northern coastal areas of North America, Europe, and Asia, and on the land masses of Greenland and Antarctica. And then the highlands. These are unique based on their elevation. They are climates that occur in mountain terrain where rapid elevation changes cause rapid climatic changes over short distances. And here's a picture of those other 3 climate zones. And here's just a diagram of those climate zones there and where they exist here in the United States. You can see here in West Michigan, we're in that climate zone D up there based on those different climate zones and how it changes as we go south into different parts of the country. You can also compare our climate to other parts of the climate or other parts of the country based on this map. And that is it for climate versus weather. I will have you, again, try to determine some record high temperatures, record lows for different parts of the country, even our area right here, and try to pick some different parts of the country based on precipitation and temperature. That's it for your lecture on climate versus weather. I will see you in class.